again. Pretty cool little area. Got a nice little slide up there for a rail slide down, and some nice fields over there. Let's do it. My props are a bit knackered because I've just been flying up there, but hey ho, clean the camera. Pretty cool. Watch the strings. Oh, that don't sound good. Time for some new props. It's a bit missing. Yeah, so I was flying these. Oh, tell me it's not raining. Oh, I was flying these. Absolutely useless. Every time I hit something, they just break. So not very happy about that. I bought like 10 sets of them. But anyway, this is what happens. This is what happens. You find out stuff. Don't trust it just because it's a name. The Nazgul props are just like next level. Like you just can't break them. I mean, you can, like if you pushed hard enough you would, but I just have a really good experience with the Nazgul props, so that is what I'm going to stick to now. This looks like a... Oh no, it's raining properly now. Screw it, I'm going to send it anyway. try again. There we go. Sake. Right, so this is what I was swearing about. I clipped my balance connector on this battery, so that happens from time to time. It just must have slipped out. It was tied up, but anyway, to get it home, what I did was just literally just clip these wires off, because going home with that in your backpack is not going to be a good idea. That's going to start a fire. So yeah, always do that if you come up with that issue. Drone itself is all right. It's holding up pretty well. I was saying about these props being absolutely useless. I mean, I've not had good experience. As soon as you hit anything, they just snap. So they're not going to be used unless I've run out of these, basically. But these will snap, but they just basically bend. So you can kind of bend them back, which just means that your prop changes aren't happening as much. What else? So I've taken some slices out of the crossfire antenna. That, you know, is fine. That'll be all right. I might move that though, because I don't really like this mount anymore. I think I'll just take that off. I've lost one of the skids as well on the bottom. That just basically, well, those bolts just went straight through the hole. So on one crash, it just kind of pulled that off. So I don't know if they're very good. Also, the wire protectors, I did get a load of these, but they're just a pain in the butt because you've got to kind of unsolder the wires every time to put new ones on. And look, that's just going to, you know, that's all sharp and nasty, so that could catch a wire. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my old mate, NJ Tech, Neil. His tip was basically use like fabric weave tape like they use in the car automotive industry. You just basically tape up the wires with that, and the experience I've had with it is, you know, even prop strikes, it won't go through it. It's very strong. So that's what I'm going to do with that. But there is a major problem here with this O3 air unit in here. Now what's happening, every time you crash, what happens is something happens. I don't know if it's like you're getting a surge of power or reduction of power because you're hitting the prop on something, and then that surging, you know, lowering the power, causing basically like a brownout of the power supply to the O3 air unit, and that is then cutting out the O3. So when you crash, you basically haven't got any video. And then after about, I don't know, 30 seconds it takes for the O3 air unit to reboot, it comes back online. So really weird. Of course, what happens in turn is, because it's right into the O3 air unit or the SD card in it, the information, part of the information gets lost. It doesn't just dump the file, which is good. It repairs it when you return, when it gets power back on, it repairs the file. But it means, as you see in the video, I've literally just lost like loads of flight footage, probably like the last 30 seconds to a minute of flight footage before the crash. So that's super annoying. So I'm going to whip all this apart, and I'm going to try and figure out why that is happening, because, yeah, I need to solve that. I might have to just wire the O3 power supply directly to VBAT. On this particular controller, flight controller, it has an output, like a plug for an air unit. Now, this wasn't an O3 air unit originally. This was like a Vista. So I think maybe that is just not big enough for the job, or it suffers from problems, you know, like if you smack a motor, you get like a big drop in voltage, and that's what's cutting it off. Anyway, I'm going to try and get to the bottom of this. Either wire it directly to the battery connections, or I don't know, I'll just find something else. You know, these O3 units, they can kind of delaminate. They can almost like separate. If it might be that, it might just be something inside it. The connectors themselves and everything look okay when I take this off. That's not my toothbrush, by the way, it's Ringway Manchester's. Also, this camera mount's holding up well. So this was one from eBay. Basically, it's like a TPU mount, camera mount. I think it's better than the carbon one that EOS are now kind of supplying, which I don't know, but basically this just seems a bit stronger. I mean, if you whack carbon on the ends, you're just going to end up delaminating it. So it makes sense to have kind of like a TPU mount. So first thoughts, this doesn't look good. Look, there's a big dent in the top of the actual, or the bottom of the air unit. But, and that's thermal paste there, and there's also a bit of dirt in there as well. I've just taken it off, obviously. And there isn't really anything underneath here, I don't think. So, you know, the fact that that's got kind of like a big dent in it, I wouldn't have thought that's kind of anything too much to worry about. But it obviously has had an impact at some point. I don't know how, because this was underneath the carbon. But anyway, this lifts up. Now, I've had problems with these before where they kind of come apart, but that lifts up and you've actually got like a kind of connector on the inside. These are pretty well put together, and you can see that like that kind of ribbon cable in there. I mean, that shouldn't, I don't know. I'm going to put it back together and just give it a test and see. I think I'm going to stick some power onto it and just see what happens, just moving it around. See if it kind of sparks or anything like that. Well, it's on. There's a red light because it's not connected to anything, goggles or anything like that. But look, so nothing is affecting it that way. This connector, though, is not the best it could be. Let's try changing that connector over and see if that makes any difference. Okay, so what I've done now is I've actually taken some replacement harnesses from basically my spare flight controller that I've got here. And yeah, I've just changed over the harnesses because this plug, this new one here that I've put in, fits a lot snugger than the other one. That was my kind of lead that I made up. But yeah, I don't know. I've got a feeling it's this that's the problem. It might not be, but anyway, I've put this all back together. I've actually changed this top plate as well. Swapped it for one of my other O3 air units. The one hasn't got a dent in it. It's just a little bit more straight, and you know, just try and mitigate problems really. But also, I've changed this harness on the receiver as well because this was broken. This end of this was broken. So, just trying to get all the things that are kind of looking a bit shabby just replaced really, and hopefully that will solve it. If this doesn't, then I think it's a battery kind of, if this doesn't, I think it's a power supply issue. So like it's kind of browning out when it hits a motor, as I was saying. So then I'll have to run those two wires to, I mean, could just wire them directly to the battery, then you won't be going through any regulators or anything like that. I don't know if this actually regulates this output. I need to look at the manual, but anyway, hopefully it'll work. Right, it's all back together. I'm out in the woods. Let's go for a bash and see if it solved that O3 problem. So guys, into another rip. What an absolute blast. So everything's fine. The O3 has sorted itself out now. Well, I've sorted it out with the harness. So basically it was the connectors. Got a bit of a mashed up O3 antenna there. Also the crossfire antenna. I've seen better days as well. But that is part and parcel of rippage in the woods. But everything else is holding up pretty well. Oh yeah, my fabric tape didn't turn up, so I just used insulation tape for the moment. And that seems absolutely fine. There's no nicks in it. Those plastic things would have totally smashed to pieces from what I was doing in here. But yeah, what a good rip.